Hello and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today we're going to do a fast and loose Tonalist watercolor landscape painting. Going to use just Daniel Smith Van Dyke Brown along with I think it's Da Vinci brand white gouache. The paper I'm using is the Legion Stonehenge. It's not the Aqua, it's the Stonehenge, which is 90 pound. I've been playing with it since it is tinted, and I wanted to play with the different tones and values. So we're going to work with that. This one I believe is the Fawn. So I'm going to jump into it. It's going to be a fast and loose imaginary scene. We're going to kind of let it flow and create as we go. I kind of adopted this technique from the modern oil painters, Stuart Davies and Dennis Sheehan, who will mix their oils with a thinning agent and just kind of wipe on back and forth. And the technique works really well with watercolor, especially if it's not a staining pigment. I think that this scene will be kind of reminiscent of one of the Claude Lorraine sketches from the Claude Lorraine album. I'm not quite sure. I would like to do some sketches from it, like direct studies. This is going to be an imaginary one, or at least for my recollection of one that took place. I think it has kind of a high wall, cliff edge, and we'll bring tree and foliage up here. Just looking for diversity and variety in my drawings, in my compositions, my paintings, sorry. In everything. Let's get a little bit of the sky here. So I tried a little trick today. I just fed the cats right before I came in here. So hopefully Percy and Hammy, those are the two guilty parties of jumping up onto the table, the art table. Hopefully they're nice and full bellies, and they just want to relax. I think we will eventually have to do a direct study of this one. It's definitely going to be different than the whatever one I'm picturing, but I just want that to just be out there, that, you know, whenever you pull from sources, or you know, if you can give credit where credit is due, you know, obviously do so. But that being said, you're welcome to follow along with anything that I do, and you are more than welcome to sign your own name to anything that I do, and you have my express permission to sell anything you do when you follow along. I want you guys to have fun, be successful, have money for art supplies, etc. And thank you to everybody that supports this channel through liking, commenting, subscribing, and through people that support financially through Patreon. I have some exclusive content up there, and with summer break hitting, I'm gonna have a lot of content up there. I put one up yesterday with this pigment, and I used, I think it was the Stonehenge, probably the neutral or the warm. Unfortunately, my one gripe is that when I order different ones, they're not labeled. They're not in a bag that have the names on it, and I just have difficulty telling the difference when holding them up to a computer monitor or the phone screen. The craft one definitely has, sorry, this is the fawn, which definitely has a huge difference between it and the cream. And then to go even browner would be the craft. I think I have a sheet of the craft, so we're eventually going to do that. And because of pushing so kind of, I guess, I don't know if you'd say like a higher value paper, tonal value paper. Since we're doing that, I thought that the white gouache would be interesting. I also have a painting that, oddly enough, I'd picked up off of eBay. It's a vintage or antique watercolor that I can't tell if it's on toned paper with white gouache or white paper with a toned tannish pigment on top. I'll take it off the wall one day and we'll look at it and maybe even sketch from that. But I think in here would be interesting to have washes of white. This the Van Dyke Brown is looking really great on top of this craft paper. Fawn, sorry if I'm messing it up. I wonder how it'll dry. I think we do have a tonal shift that takes place with this paint, with this tube, but I'm really just enjoying the look of it right now. So I have to anticipate that a change will take place with the drying stage. A few other things. With this 90-pound paper, the first time I found that I really struggled in the wet and wet stage. I think the paper absorbs and wants to kind of buckle a little bit more than the 140-pound paper. It's just lighter weight. But to add on to that, I did note that the Bockingford paper, which is 140 pound and tinted, but it's not cotton, buckles more than this 90-pound paper. So I am pretty happy with how it's handling so far. I think simply just getting used to the material itself. This tube has a nice granulation to it. Hopefully that shows up in the video itself. I almost don't want to use white there, but I want to do the exploration and see how it would push in both directions. I learned very quickly that scraping on this paper with this level of moisture is a no-go. So we're going to hold off on that. I'm creating horizontal strokes here. So we have a vertical edge here, and we have horizontal for a watery surface. Let's see. I'm going to use this, let's see, who is it? It's a Squirrel Blend Quill. I think I got it off of Jerry's Artorama. I'm using that simply because I really don't clean the Hake brush during a painting, and I feel like it might just be better to use this. The Da Vinci brand, if you watch Mind of Watercolor, and I hopefully don't misquote him, but he does a big kind of head-to-head review of the different white gouaches from the different major brands. The Da Vinci brand does not really hold up that well compared to the other brands that he tests. However, Da Vinci brand, from what I recall, is a lot more affordable. So whether it's a matter of pigment load or what, I don't know. But for me, the lower cost outweighs the complete opacity of it. And watercolor prices seem to be really up there, especially when you start looking at acrylic. I don't use acrylic, but some of my friends do, and we started looking at prices and comparing and seeing that there is just a massive increase in watercolor prices. Let's bring a little bit of white down here. I don't know if I wanted to have that there. There we go. I know I kind of keep on going in and layering more and more on top. I don't usually use white gouache in this fashion, but I think it was worth the attempt. I think it's going in an interesting direction. I really don't want it to mix with the Van Dyke, because that Van Dyke seems to have a, I don't know if it doesn't have a black pigment in it. I think it's just PBR7, but it almost appears like a black umber, if there is some sort of black umber in some spots, and I don't want to get those grays to take place. It might be worth it for a future video, because so far I'm just liking the contrast there. But let's put that on the side for right now. See if there's anything else we want to do. I did mention that the paint is Daniel Smith. The gouache is Da Vinci brand. Daniel Smith is more on the expensive side of things. They do have a large range and some very unique pigments or pigment properties. I was placing an order yesterday. I didn't place anything for any Daniel Smith, but I looked at some that were, it was $15, it was 15 milliliters for about $12 for some of the pigments. And there were some really pretty ones. If you want me to order some and explore some more, let me know down below. I know I have a tube of the Moon Glow. That'd be a good one. Ooh, I like just the composition. It's definitely different than the one that I was starting to envision from Claude Lorraine. And I am really pleased that I could kind of start with that vision and have it coalesce into something else. So you can use compositional shapes from sketchings, from masters, from historical paintings, etc., and then make it your own. I really want that. Yeah, there we go. We'll probably do a dry off and another layer on top. But before that, let's see if I have my #1 rigger here. We'll do some wet and wet branches, trunks. And this, once again, is simply because if I was to scrape at this point, I would create those black lines that really have a lot of pigment fall into them. This would be a great place. Actually, I was just saying, I'm going to say this would be a great place for just a kind of dead tree or a trunk or just something coming up. And in the image that I'm just mentally referring to, there's a sketch of two people sitting here holding a child looking off in this direction, and there's a tree up behind. So it's interesting that compositionally that anything could take place in that spot. I think all along this edge there's sheep or goats. There we go. Put a few stronger elements in here. Bring them down below. We need these guys to sit in place, so I really just am enjoying the tint, the tone of this the fawn paper. I had used it with some Derwent drawing pencils, which is their colored pencils, or one of their colored pencils, but it really looked nice with the earth tones that were present in those. That might just be kind of who I am and what I like using. I want it to be asymmetrical. Oh, and of course, everything that I do is always available for sale if you'd like it. I don't post every single thing up on Etsy. I probably should. I do post them on my Facebook page, Andrew Broussard Watercolors, which I link down below. But if there's ever anything that I post or paint and you're like, oh, I like that one, just shoot me a message or make a comment, and if it's not already somebody else's, it's yours. You can have it. I'll send it to you for a very affordable price. If you look on the Etsy, you'll see. I don't know if I like how thick this trunk is, but it is pretty solid, stable piece. I don't need to bring every reflection down. And let's darken here. Okay, so we're going to do a dry off. We'll see how things shift and how things soften up. And then we'll play around from there. Okay, so it did soften up some. Still a little cool to the touch, so it's still kind of a little damp in some areas. Before I do the next stage, I want to throw an idea and a question out there for you guys to respond to in the comments below if you know the answer to this. With paper and watercolor paper, I wonder if there is a bleaching, is probably a bleaching process that takes place in order to make it white. And historically, I think writing surfaces was vellum, which I think was from animal. But I guess watercolor paper, was it cotton? Was it paper pulp? Was it processed to be white? Was it bleached in some way, shape, or form? I'm curious if you know anything about that. Let us know in the comments down below. So I'm using the hake, throwing in texture and tone. You can see I'm just kind of simply depping. Trying to get a variety within it so it's not the same stamped image over and over again. I'm working from the foreground back in this one, simply to see where I want to stop and where I want the softness to remain. And I believe we could probably take a few different approaches. You could do this all the way back, this texturing and having the variation between it. You can go to this line here, you can bring it out to this one here, you can bring it to, like I said, the back. So I think that's where a lot of taking chances and exploratory practices will really help out. So if you follow along with this one, I may just stay in the foreground with these textures, but try it out with bringing that texture back. Try it out with bringing, shortening the texture. Maybe just try texture here. Explore that and see what you like and what situation and why you like it. Grabbing the number 4 just so I could grab more pigment. Seeing how I want this to what do I want it to become. I think the white gouache was definitely a hit. I really don't like how it mixed right there, but it's going to wind up being future experiments. Seeing just these two tubes, or a monochromatic with the white, and seeing how that interacts. It's also obviously very reminiscent of just using pastel or charcoal, working dark with the charcoal and working light with the gouache, moving in those two directions. Same thing with Conte. If you have toned paper and you are working with sanguine and the black, or the brown, the bistre, and you work with white in the other direction. There's obviously reminiscent of that. You can use that to kind of connect picture plane, let some elements sit on top. If you want to bring some higher things, you could play with tree elements up in here in the foreground. You all know I love to add those. Let's pause and dry. We might end it after this dry off. I am very pleased with this combination. So once again, this is, where do I want to sign it? I don't know if I want to use, I might sign it off camera once I pause so I can find a black pen instead of doing a white one. I'm really happy with the combination. The fawn paper with the Van Dyke brown and the white gouache, it really worked well. It's going to have to be something we're going to come back to and do more of. So I hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, follow, and if you want to support this channel, Patreon link down below. And thank you to everybody that watches and supports, and I really appreciate y'all. Have a great day. Take care.